Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Electra Forrester remained motionless in the dimly illuminated corridor of the Forrester home, her manicured fingers grabbing the edge of the antique cabinet as if it were the only thing holding her up. The photograph she had just discovered in the back of an old drawer looked up at her with ruthless clarity. A much younger Dylan, no older than 8, smiling beside a woman Electra recognized better than her own reflection. Quinn Fuller, the lady who had previously attempted to destroy her family. The lady who had captivated Eric Forrester, carried the Forrester matriarch's portrait around her neck like a trophy, and nearly drove Brooke Logan insane. The woman whose name still made half the room shudder when spoken aloud in this house. Quinn Fuller was Dylan's mother. Electra took shallow, quick breaths. The pieces that had never fit together before snapped into place with brutal precision. Dylan's mysterious remarks on growing up outside the bubble of Los Angeles's elite culture. His unusually strong reactions every time Quinn's name came up in discussion. He always changed the subject when anyone discussed the famed sword necklace incident. His dark hair and high cheekbones, which Electra had mistakenly imagined came from some unidentified European father. She'd been dating Quinn Fuller's son for 4 months. For months of late-night conversations on the Malibu sand. For months of secret kisses in the Forrester Creations design area after hours. Dylan spent 4 months sketching languid circles on her naked shoulder, murmuring that she was the only person to ever make him feel like he belonged anyplace. Electra gradually and terrifyingly fell in love with him over the course of 4 months. And every second of it was based on a gigantic untruth that threatened to swallow her whole. Her phone rang in her pocket, presumably Dylan, who was wondering why she had left the party below. She ignored it. The noises of celebration rose from the great staircase. Laughter, clinking champagne glasses, and a faint thrum of music. The Forresters, Logans, and Spencers had gathered to celebrate hope for the future's latest victory, blissfully ignorant that upstairs, Electra's entire world was collapsing. She pushed herself to move, sliding the photograph back into the drawer, but not before taking a quick photo of it on her phone. Evidence. Proof that she wasn't losing her mind. Then she closed the drawer with a quiet click that echoed like a gunshot in the silence. Quinn was meant to be in Paris. Permanently. That was the arrangement Eric struck when he eventually divorced her years ago. Quinn would stay in Europe and keep her distance, while the Forresters would pretend the entire toxic chapter had never happened. Carter had drawn up the documents himself. Electra recalled the relief that had spread over the family as Quinn's private plane took off. But it appears like Quinn had left something behind. Someone. Electra's legs took her to the balcony overlooking the estate grounds before her head could catch up. The cool night air struck her face like a slap. She grasped the stone railing till her knuckles became white. Dylan, how could you withhold this from her? They had discussed everything. Her conflicted feelings about being Maya and Rick's adopted daughter, his childhood hopping between places, and her fear that she would never live up to the Forrester tradition. He had hugged her while she wailed over feeling like an outcast in her own family. And the entire while, he had been concealing the one thing that would have made her flee screaming in the opposite direction. Because becoming Quinn Fuller's kid was more than just a footnote. It was a warning label emblazoned in bold red letters. May contain unstable, manipulative, possible homicidal tendencies. Electra pushed her palms to her eyes and saw stars. She tried to recall the image of Dylan that normally calmed her, his crooked smile when he teased her about her fixation with vintage Chanel, the way he tucked her hair behind her ear like it was the most natural thing in the world, the quiet, "Hey, Elle," he whispered every time she entered a room. Nothing seemed safe anymore. Dylan's entire body stiffened beside Electra on the couch as a memory surfaced. 2 weeks ago, Steffi made a casual remark about people who inherit their parents' worst traits. She had gripped his hand under the throw blanket, assuming he was only concerned about whatever odd baggage he was carrying. She now understood. He had not been sensitive. He had been frightened that someone would connect the dots. Her phone vibrated again. This time, she glanced. Dylan. Where did you disappear? Is everything okay? She gazed at the screen till it went black. Her thumbs hovered and began typing before she could stop them. Electra, we should chat. Meet me in the guest house.
Now.
She pushed submit and immediately regretted it. The guest house was too private and cozy. Every memory of tangled sheets and whispered confessions was poisoned. However, it was the only spot where they would not be interrupted. She was halfway down the path, heels sinking into the groomed lawn, when the response arrived. Dylan, on my way. The guest house was solely lit by the moon, which filtered through the transparent curtains. Electra moved through the living room like a trapped animal, arms wrapped about herself as if she could physically hold her heart together. When the door opened 10 minutes later, she did not turn around.
Al.
His voice was gentle and full of worry. What's wrong, baby? You're scaring me. She spun, and the look on his face as he saw her expression caused something inside her to snap. He knew. Maybe not the specific details of what she discovered, but he knew the game was up. How long? She asked, her voice cracking. How long were you going to lie to me? Dylan slammed the door behind him, leaning against it as if his legs would give up. The effortless assurance he usually exuded like cologne had vanished. In its place was a raw vulnerability that she had only seen in fleeting times. Electra? Quinn, she spat. Your mother is Quinn Fuller. Say it. His shoulders dropped. He crossed the room in 2 leaps, reaching for her, but she stepped aside so quickly that she knocked the coffee table. Don't, she cautioned. Do not touch me until you have told me the truth. Dylan raked both hands through his hair, a familiar move that made her chest hurt. Yes, he finally said, barely above a whisper. Quinn Fuller is my mother. The words hung between them like fog. Electra laughed, but there was no humor in it. 4 months, Dylan. 4 months of me exposing my heart to you, and you couldn't muster a single honest sentence about the most important thing in your life? It wasn't like that. So, what was it like? She couldn't stop herself from shouting. Because, from where I'm standing, it appears that you purposefully targeted me. Your mother spent years harassing the girl and her family. Was this a twisted revenge plot? Get the Forrester princess to fall for you, then watch everything burn. No. The word blasted out of him. He took a step forward and then halted. Oh, God, no. Electra, I promise on everything. That's not true. I had no idea who you were at first. She glanced at him. What? That night at Il Giardino, when we met. I had no notion you're a Forrester. You identified yourself as Electra and stated you worked in fashion. That was it. I thought you were just this beautiful, funny girl who looked at me like I was worth something. His voice trembled. I discovered out too late. I was already in love with you. Electra's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. God help her. She wanted to believe him so much that she felt like dying. Why not tell me then? She inquired. When did you realize? Because I knew precisely how you'd react, he said helplessly, gesturing to the space between them. Elle, my mother is more than simply a challenging mom. She embodies a natural calamity. Everyone in the city has a horror story. And I didn't want to be Quinn Fuller's son to you. I wanted to be simply Dylan. When you're anxious about a design deadline, this guy will make you giggle. The person who knows you prefer 2 sugars in your latte and claim to despise rom-coms while secretly crying at every single one. He took a tentative step forward. She did not move away this time. I thought if I could just make you love me enough first, he said, his voice rough. Maybe when you found out it wouldn't mean as much. That you'd see me and not her. Electra's eyes heated. You thought wrong. The words struck like a slap. Dylan trembled as if she had actually struck him. I know, he whispered. I know I've botched this up beyond repair. And I am not asking you to forgive me now or tomorrow. I am asking for the opportunity to earn it. Because losing you, his voice cracked utterly. Losing you would be worse than everything my mother has ever done to me combined. Electra turned away and wrapped her arms about herself again. The silence lingered, dense and uncomfortable. Finally she spoke, but hardly audible. What was it like? Growing up with her? Dylan exhaled, shakily. Lonely. chaotic. She loved me in her own manner, but it was possessive. Like I was the only pure thing she'd managed to produce, and she was scared that someone would take me away. We moved constantly. Every year, or sometimes twice, we moved to a new city. When she was fleeing something, she gave me a new name as well. Or someone. He sank into the couch, as if the weight of 28 years had suddenly become too much. The longest we ever stayed anywhere was when she married Eric, he says. I was 15. For the first time, I had a bedroom that was all mine. I might be able to graduate from this institution. Then everything went to hell. The fighting, the necklace, the rooftop. He laughed cruelly. I was attending boarding school in Switzerland when she shoved Ivy. I didn't find out until weeks later, when Mom arrived in the middle of the night with 2 suitcases and a black eye, saying me we needed to leave before they came for us. Electra's heart wrenched. She'd never heard this version of events. In the Forrester story, Quinn was a complete villain. No one ever mentioned the toddler caught in the crossfire. I hated her for a long time, Dylan said. For making me complicit, simply by existing. For making it such that everywhere I went, if anyone found out who my mother was, they looked at me as if I was about to pull a sword on them in the midst of dinner. He looked up at her, his eyes reddened. When she ultimately consented to stay in Paris, part of me felt relieved. Electra unconsciously approached him, feeling abandoned once more. She stopped short of touching him. I met your dad once, Dylan remarked gently. Wyatt. He tracked me down when I was 21. He wanted to connect with his little brother. We had coffee. He spent the entire time apologizing for things that were not his fault. Told me if I ever needed anything. He shrugged. I never called. She sat at the other end of the couch, leaving 2 feet of uncomfortable gap between them. I didn't target you, he repeated, this time gentler. But I lied. Every day, I lied by not informing you. And if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life making amends. Electra looked down at her hands. I don't know how to trust you anymore. I know. I keep thinking about all the times we talked about family. About how much I despised feeling like an outsider because I was adopted. He firmly stated, we do have that in common. More than you realize. Being Quinn's son made me the ultimate outsider everywhere we went. She gazed at him intently. His eyes showed fatigue. His hands trembled slightly. This was not the slick, charming Dylan who had swept her off her feet 4 months prior. This was someone who had spent his entire life hauling a boulder uphill and had now dropped it at her feet. What happens now? She inquired. He took a deep breath. Now I'm telling everyone. If that's what you require, we can start tonight. I walk downstairs and tell the entire Forrester Logan Spencer family that Quinn Fuller's son has been dating Rick and Maya's daughter. Let them despise me. Let them warn you away. I do not care. Electra's tears streamed down her cheeks as she pleaded not to let go without a fight. She didn't realize she was crying. I can't promise anything tonight, she replied. I need time. Space. Dylan nodded, swallowing hard. My head is a mess. Take as much time as you need. I will be here. Or not here if you like. Whatever you need. They sat silently for a long time. Outside, the party noise had subsided. Guests had left, and another Forrester drama was narrowly avoided for one more night. Finally, Electra stood. I am going back to my apartment tonight. Alone. He did not protest. At the door, she halted. Dylan. Yeah. In the picture in the drawer upstairs, you were wearing a small sword necklace. He closed his eyes. She made me wear it for the photograph. They said it was part of our brand. I was 8 years old. I despised that monster. Electra nodded once and walked away into the night. 3 weeks later, Electra sat at her desk at Forrester Creations, staring at the same fabric swatch she'd been pretending to test for an hour. The workplace swarmed around her, phones ringing, interns scurrying, Steffi yelling commands down the corridor, but everything seemed remote, as if she were underwater. She hadn't seen Dylan since that night at the guest home. He'd kept his word. No texts after the first day. No unexpected appearances. Nothing. Just radio silence, which hurt more than if he had battled harder. Part of her anticipated the family to find out. Rumors spread quickly in their environment, but the secret had held. Perhaps because the only two people who knew were too devastated to speak about it. Her phone displayed a fresh email. Subject line: Paris Fashion Week. Hope for the future guest list. She opened it carelessly, reading through the names. Dylan Sharp +1 appeared halfway down. Her breath caught. He was bringing someone to the season's biggest event. The agony was sudden and blinding. After 3 weeks of convincing herself she was well, recovering, and that she didn't miss the way he said her name, this happened. Evidence that he was moving on, that she'd waited too long. She stood up so quickly that her chair rolled back and banged the wall. Before she could stop herself, she was walking toward the elevator, heels clicking like gunfire. 20 minutes later, she was opening the door to Dylan's little loft in the Arts District. She still had the spare key he gave her in month 2, when things were simple. He was in the kitchen, shirtless and pouring coffee. The sight of his bare back, the small scar on his shoulder blade from a childhood mishap with Quinn's jewelry tools, the way his sweatpants dropped low on his hips, struck her like a punch. He turned, mug halfway to his lips, and stopped. Electra. The sound of her name in his voice almost broke her. Are you bringing a date to Paris? She demanded, hating how low her voice sounded. He placed the mug carefully. No. But the guest list. I requested a +1 in case you ever wanted to go with me. He took a timid step closer. There is nobody else. There's only been you since I saw you arguing with that bartender about whether rose counts as red wine. Electra's eyes filled. I've been miserable. Me too. That night keeps coming back to mind. Everything you've stated. I can't find my way to forgiveness yet. But I miss you so much that it feels like a part of me is missing. Dylan walked across the room in 3 steps. This time, she did not take a step back. I will tell you everything, he stated urgently. Every unpleasant detail. I will sit through every family dinner where they question me about my mother. I will allow Ridge to threaten me with bodily harm. Whatever it takes, Electra said, her eyes welling with tears. I'm still terrified. I understand. But I am not her, Elle. I'm the kid who learned early on that love should not be shackled. And it is the type of love I want to give you. The kind where you never have to wonder if I'm playing an angle. He reached up and wiped her tears away with his thumbs. She allowed him. I love you, he whispered. I love you so much that it scares me more than my mother ever did. Electra leaned into his touch just a little. It was their first voluntary touch in weeks, and it felt like coming home. I'm not ready to say it back, she said. That's fine. But I'm willing to try. Dylan's arms slowly wrapped around her, giving her every opportunity to draw away. She did not. Instead, she buried her face in his chest, allowing the tears to soak his t-shirt. Outside, Los Angeles continued to swirl, design deadlines, family strife, and life's never-ending soap opera. But in that small loft kitchen, 2 people who had grown up feeling like outsiders suddenly discovered a place to belong. It was not going to be simple. Quinn was still there, a ticking time bomb in Paris. The Forrester family would have opinions, loud ones. Trust would have to be rebuilt, one painful brick at a time. Electra could finally breathe after 3 weeks. And as Dylan raised her chin up and delivered the sweetest, most cautious kiss to her lips, as if she were something valuable he was afraid to ruin, she kissed him back. They had a long road ahead, but they'd walk it together. Because sometimes the most shattered families produce the most capable of rebuilding something beautiful from the ruins. And sometimes love isn't about where you're from. It is about making a daily decision to be better than the worst pieces of your past.